Hello everyone, my name is Vladimir Kazarinov and this is a vlog about Russia. Today I would like to speak about something really universal for any society, something which I guess I'm pretty sure every country, every society has. Commonly this is money, finance system, currency, all these things. So what takes place in this area in Russia? So Russia has its own currency, which is not surprising. It's called ruble. So, and here on the screen you can see the symbol of this currency. As you can see, the symbol of ruble looks like a letter P in Latin alphabet, but in fact this is a letter R in Cyrillic alphabet. So it looks like a letter R from the first sound of, from the first letter of the name of the currency, ruble. Also, a ruble can be presented in forms of banknotes, so let me see how they look like. So you can see the front side of the typical banknote of ruble and the back side of it. Like any other currencies in other countries, ruble is divided into hundreds of sub units which are called kopecks. In Russian it's called kopeyka. So kopeck means kopeyka, so 1 ruble equals 100 of kopecks. So it's not surprising. I think any other countries has similar situation, like for example $1 has 100 of cents and so all these things. So kopecks can be presented in coins, in form of coins. So let me show how they look like. So here you can see the front side of a typical coin with some kopecks, and here you can see the back side of a typical coin of some kopecks. Actually the majority of transactions in Russia are made in cashless form, so banknotes and coins are not used much, not often, so people mostly use their debit cards, their credit cards, and some other forms of what might be called electronic money. I have some banknotes and coins in my wallet just in case. You know, when you go to a local bar and you pay cash, so the owner cannot pay the sales tax. so somehow this is my small support to a local small business. So if you're interested in a certain, incomes, prices and all these things in Russia, be ready for big numbers. The reason is obvious. This is inflation, which from year to year is accumulated and becomes and pushes price up and up and up. The previous redenomination in Russia took place in 1998. So 25 years ago. It was really a long time ago. So since that, the inflation has been doing its job. So the prices are really high in nominal terms, so in terms of zeros behind the certain numbers, some like this. For those of you who is not familiar with what is redenomination, let me explain just really briefly, just really quickly. If you know what redenomination is, just skip this part of the video, so I'm really glad for you. Let me not explain what's inflation, because I'm pretty sure you know what is this. I'm pretty sure in the country where you are from there is some inflation. So the inflation, while it takes place in any country, it makes prices and salaries and incomes bigger and bigger and bigger. So the longer it takes place, the less convenient become prices, becomes the scale of prices, of incomes, of salaries, and all these things. So sooner or later government decides to make redenomination, which means to change what might be called the face value of a currency and the scale of prices. That's a formal definition of redenomination. Speaking simply, the government decides to cut some zeros behind the prices and behind the incomes. So at this period, when the redenomination is maintained, there are like two scales of prices and sales, like old money and new money, like old scale and new scales. So this process took place in 1998, as I mentioned before. So in that times, the government decided to cut 3 zeros just at once. So I personally remember that times it was really, the scale of prices and the scale of salaries become so huge that everybody was a millionaire in that times. The country was not rich at all. It's still not rich. The country in that times was more poor than rich, but everybody was a millionaire. So the typical expenses on food on typical family could be 1,000,000 rubles a month. So just imagine that everybody was a millionaire. So the government decided to stop it and cut it 3 zeros. So like in the previous example, which I just described, the typical cost of food for a typical family became just 1,000 of rubles, which was more convenient, more appropriate, more proportional. So while redenomination in 1998 took place, there were two types of banknotes. For example, let me show on this illustration. You can see old rubles, so you can see 50,000 of old rubles, and on this illustration you can see 50 new rubles, which are equally in terms of prices, in terms of incomes, and all this, in terms of salaries and all these things. But since that time, 25 years passed by, so the inflation's kept on doing its job. So the prices now in Russia, in nominal terms, in scales, are high again. So they're not as high as they were before 1998, before the previous redenomination, but they are really high, but they are still quite high. So, nowadays in current Russia, not everybody is a millionaire in terms of nominal scale of incomes and prices and wealthiness and all these things. But everybody who owns just really humble, really douchey property like old Soviet built apartment, he's a millionaire. He's a maybe multi-millionaire. Depends on the certain location, of certain area, certain town, city. But I'm not kidding. This what you can see now on the illustration could cost like maybe 2.5 millions of rubles. So all right. After describing the situation common in terms of scale of prices and salaries and incomes, let me give you some certain example. The example is in the city, is about the city where I live. It's called Irkutsk. It's located next to the Lake Baikal, near the Lake Baikal, the biggest lake in the world, by the way. But this is another topic. Let me not speak about this in this video. So, according to Federal State Statistics Service of Russia, the average salary in Irkutsk in 2021 was more than 56,000 of rubles. This is pre-tax income, and there is income tax in Russia, which is 30%. So the average monthly salary in Irkutsk in the year of 2021 was more than 56,000 of rubles. So in Russia we operate mostly monthly salaries, incomes, and other metrics. I realize that in other countries like United States, like other countries, people usually operate in their yearly incomes and sometimes prices, sometimes cost of something, of living, and all these things. But here in Russia we mostly measure in incomes and prices and salaries in monthly scales. So something like this. All right. So that's all for today, I guess. And in the next video, I will go on speaking about this topic, and we'll give some examples about certain prices, certain incomes, the scales of money, and all these things. So what an average citizens of my city and other cities could buy for these 56,000 of ruble monthly income. Thanks for watching, and see you in next videos.